Let me quickly talk to you about the traction slide pitch deck. It's important to understand that when you have a pitch deck, you have a lot of slides, but one slide that investors pay attention to, especially VC firms, is actually the traction slide. So, in today's conversation, I want to contextualize the traction slide for you. And whether you are a startup, whether you are an established business, whether you are in what I call a business in between, a business in transition from small or startup to a medium size, you need to really pay attention to your traction side, your traction slide. Anytime you talk to investors, anytime you talk to regulators, anytime you even talk to, say, grant makers, like if you are looking to apply for a grant, and you have to really incentivize your donors to actually to fund your company. Okay, let me just give you an overview here. So before I actually dived into the traction slide pitch deck, you need to understand that when you think about, let's say, a pitch deck, you have several slides. Okay, the traction slide is just one of them because you have slides such as cover, you have the problem, you have the solution, you have the product demo, you have the market size, you have the business model. Those are important. They're important slides also because again, they give a foundation to your pitch deck. If you want to structure your pitch deck properly, you need to understand that the cover actually is the introduction to your pitch deck. It's actually I wouldn't say the foundation, but it's more the summary. It's more the reason why investors have to listen or have to watch your pitch deck for the next 10 minutes. If your pitch deck is that long, because usually pitch decks can be even as short as 5 minutes. Because if you're really good when it comes to pitching your product or service, you should be able to do so within 5 minutes, within 10 minutes, okay, at maximum. So it's important to understand that. For instance, when you talk about a problem or solution, you want to go as you want to use bold fonts, you want to use short sentences, and ideally you want to have infographics, you want to have pictures because a picture actually translates into 1,000 words. So the less you talk on the pitch deck itself, the better. So if you talk about a pitch deck, besides the first six slides that I just listed for you, like cover, problem, solution, product demo, market size, business model, you do have six other slides that are also quite essential. Like you have competition. When it comes to competition, please don't denigrate your competitors, don't denigrate your rivals on the pitch deck. No, just list their pros and cons and list yours too. That's all. Okay, nothing really complicated. You don't need to bring down your competitors to appear on top when talking to lenders. Okay, so be very positive, be very forward looking, and focus only on your business model. Okay, so that's the competition slide. You also have another slide that I love a lot that I've seen I've seen on hundreds of pitch decks, and that's called the underlying magic. Underlying magic is kind of I would say an intersection, the intersection between your USP, your unique selling proposition, but also the what you're really bringing to the market. Why you? Why you? That's the underlying magic. Okay, you got to also talk about your go-to market. So your go-to market is really important also in terms of defining your traction slide. Okay, because your traction slide, believe it or not, is actually I would say it's a summarization of those previous slides. Okay, so your go-to market, same thing for your team. Your team, I'm not asking you to really talk about your team in glowing like in glowing reviews, blah blah blah. Somebody has a PhD, somebody, no, just show your team as a good mixture of skill sets, as a good mixture, good mixture of backgrounds, professional backgrounds, a good mixture of networks. That's all. I mean, because if you want to impress investors, investors are willing to see that your business model is workable. Your business model is monetizable. And you can only monetize your business model if you have a good mixture of skill sets, okay, networks and professional backgrounds, among other things. Of course, you talk about your traction slide, your milestones. This is what we're going to talk about like for the next 10 minutes for you to really understand what the tracking slide is. And you also want to include a little bit of some fundraising information. So when you actually are like, and you put the fundraising information right below or right after the tracking slide. So when you talk about your tracking slide, you have to understand that your strategy has to be foundational. Your company's strategy has to be foundational to the traction slide. Because how can you show traction if there's no strategy behind that traction? Okay, and when we talk about strategy behind that traction, we are speaking directly or indirectly about your rivals because your rivals are going to shape your strategy, are going to help you improve your strategy, or are going to help tweak your strategy. You need to tweak your strategy as often as possible in response to what the market thinks of those strategies, or also in response to what your competitors are doing. This is a very dynamic sector, regardless of your niche. This is a very dynamic economy, really. Okay, so how do you talk about your competition? Like I said a little earlier, you do not want to denigrate them. You don't need to denigrate them because if you denigrate your competitors, this speaks very loudly about your own weaknesses. Okay, you don't need to bring them down. Okay, just go straight to the point. Go straight to your strengths and weaknesses, and do the same for them too. And do this in a very unbiased, objective way. Okay, that's how you actually will come out ahead. Okay, be practical about your differentiators to make it visually clear just how far your product or company lies in terms of significant competitive advantage. You can see on the screen here, this is just an example, okay, that we just created for you in terms of, let's say, if you think about the manual time demanding versus automatic fast results, design. Okay, that's really strong, and you can see that this design here on the screen right now doesn't denigrate any competitors. It just presents facts. So when you think about the underlying magic, it's all about your competitive advantage, right? It's all about your ability to do things better than your competitors. It's also your ability to do things efficiently because what you think you can do differently, your competitors might be doing it too, right? But you're doing it differently. You were doing more efficiently. You're doing fast. You're doing with more skills. Okay, so that's what the underlying magic is, and the underlying magic, it means that basically you have a set of resources that make you actually develop a competitive edge in a very very crowded market. It can be technology, it can be skills, it can be anything that adds value to your business model. So when you think about the tracking slide, you also need to think about the fact that you want to summarize on that slide or before that your go-to market strategy. And the go-to market is important because just simply telling investors, "Hey, listen, I have the best idea in this sector. I have the best business model." But investors, if you can't really convince investors that your process to bring it to market is workable, your process to bring it to market is actually realistic, investors are not going to back you. Okay, so it's important to have a go-to-market strategy. So it's important to understand that you have to clarify your plans to acquire a mass audience. Because simply saying, "Listen, I have a magic, I have a USP, I have a UVP," but how are you going to conquer the market? How are you going to add tens, hundreds, thousands, or even millions of consumers to your customer base? How are you going to what are your ads? What are your branding strategy? What are your branding strategies, your ad strategies, your promotion strategies, your outreach strategies, your social media strategies? You have to really define that. I mean, of course, you don't have to talk for hours and hours and hours, but you have to summarize those elements on your slide, okay? And you also have to know perfectly how well you are going to grow your business. That shows investors that you have a clear idea about your business model. That shows investors that you know what you're talking about. That shows investors that you have down packed pretty much your whole business strategy. And it's important because if you are evolving in a competitive market and you don't know what you're talking about, you are going to lose a lot of cash, a lot of time, a lot of resources. So investors want to see clear tactics, okay, an expanded vision, and also a clarified business model that really focuses on growth. So when you think about traction slide, and you are really focusing on making sure that you want to show traction to investors, you you have to understand that behind every traction, behind every excellent traction, is actually a great founding team. Not employees yet, but a founding team. If you are by yourself, if you are a founder, I mean, at some point it helps to actually to bring in other founders, because anytime you have a startup, anytime you have a business, if you're by yourself, you're probably limiting your skill set. But if you bring in two or three or four co-founders, you're expanding the realm of skill sets you can acquire, right? Just make sure that those co-founders have skill sets that complement each other. If you are good with IT, you do not want to really go and grab other IT co-founders. No, go and grab somebody who has this expertise when it comes to finance, when it comes to law, when it comes to I would say advertising. The more diverse your skill set is, the better. Okay. So basically, one thing I want to say here is that when you are thinking about the founding team slide, you want to really quickly talk about. First of all, you want to have a professional headshot photo shoot. Okay, you want to go to you want to have a photo shoot session where you take professional headshots. I don't really need people showing like they just are hung over or whatever. No, okay. So you want to show your co-founders shiny faces. Okay, so if you have ever heard of the hustler, the hacker, the hipster, you have to really bear that in mind. Okay, we're not speaking about making sure that you have amateurish pictures, but just make sure that people are as natural as possible. Okay, they are themselves. They are themselves, because that's what investors care about. Investors don't care about like co-founders in suits, whatever. No, as long as the co-founders can deliver value, as long as the co-founders have the skill sets necessary to bring the product to market and execute properly and execute successfully, that's all investors care about. Okay, you want to have a team that's ideal. That's ideal when it comes to growing your company. That's what you need. You need in the first place. But please, you want to stay away from including anyone that is not 100% your company, like advisors, early employees, okay, muses, and pivotal directives. They're not fully, I would say, dedicated to making your company grow. Can be kept away from what should otherwise be a truly simple slide. So one thing you have to understand here is that when you think about your traction slide, you gotta be as I would say assertive as possible. I wanted to say aggressive, but you don't really want to be aggressive here. You want to be assertive, okay? So it's important to understand that your goal here is to actually convince investors that you are the deal. You are it. You are the company to really pay attention to, okay? And it's important to understand that when you actually think about your traction slide, you have to also think about how data on your traction slide actually complements data on your milestone slide. Because when we talk about traction, we are speaking about milestones. We are speaking about a journey that your business model has to go through to make sure that you are capturing the market properly. Okay. And it's important to really understand is that when you actually talk about your traction, when you actually cover your traction slide, the goal here is to provide let's say a lethal punch to your overall presentation. That's what really seals the deal. Okay, one thing you need to really understand here is that you have to really pay attention to what you're telling investors, because at the end of the day, what you say on the traction slide in terms of monthly progression, quarterly progression, or annual progression is going to be quite essential when it comes time now to ask for the money, for the ask. Okay, So on your tracking slide, as you can see on the screen here, when it comes to tracking, you can do things on a monthly basis, but you want to be, let's say, as how do I say it? As expensive as possible. Expensive with an A, so comprehensive, right? So for instance, you can want to talk about your MRR, your subscriptions. So we are speaking about your annual recurring revenue or your monthly recurring revenue. Here, what I like about this tracking slide is that it shows you net revenue versus subscriptions. Subscriptions are not net revenue. Subscriptions are your revenue, and net revenue is actually revenue after you take away all the ancillary expenses. You can see that this tracking slide here shows you very clearly at 20% month over month growth, which is really healthy, and that's something that investors like to see anyway. So when it comes to a tracking slide on a pitch deck, you need to really understand that your tracking slide is actually supposed to lay a strong foundation to your ask. If you're asking for $1 million, if you're asking for $10 million, if you're asking for $100 million, if you're asking for $1 billion, this amount that you're asking, your ask has to correlate to what you've shown on the tracking slide. Okay, and your tracking slide, like I said before, is a summarization of everything that you have actually said before, in terms of your competition, in terms of how you are thinking about going to market, your go-to market, everything about your founding team. Because if you talk about tracking, I'm going to grow. I project to grow. I intend to grow 20% month over month. But you have a founding team that is actually not quote unquote consistent in terms of your goals. You are telling investors that you haven't done your homework yet. Okay. So one thing you need to really understand here is that at the end of the day, you have the possibility to try to actually test things, to rehearse things in house. So within your team, before you go to investors, you want to rehearse things, make sure that some of your team players, you can do role play. You can do role play where some of your team members ask questions, and they role play as investors, and you answer all questions. Okay, and try to do it as consistently as possible. In other words, you want to put yourselves in the same condition that you would have if you had to invite investors over. Okay, and do this for quite some time, and also use software if possible. So when I said a tracking slide, you can even use a pitch deck software to create your tracking slide. Okay, and you don't have to do this even if you're good at PowerPoint. Even if you have a PowerPoint genius in your team, you still want to really automate things. You want to have a very efficient process, and this is what software can help you achieve in a very fast amount of time. So as a coda into this conversation, I spoke to you about trusting slide pitch deck, what you really include. I gave you the overview, the strategy, and now the coda. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.